Hey YouTubers, so today's video, what you're about to see is me repairing the field coil on my AC compressor. It stopped working, it was blowing the fuses, and so I changed the field coil. I did some recording, kind of showed you what I did and the process to do it on a 2012 and newer Ford Focus. It shows that I also removed a clip on the center of the shaft that wasn't necessary for the process, and so what happened was it blew out a seal and all the refrigerant started spraying everywhere. I was able to poke that seal back in carefully and put the clip back in place and seal it back up. It sealed fine. At the time when I made the video, the car had 295,000 miles on it, give or take. Right now I'm over 300,000 miles. I'm at about 301,000 miles, and it's been a couple months since I made the original video, and the AC is still blowing ice cold. I mean, it was 90 degrees plus today, and I didn't even have to turn it up on full blast, and I was actually very comfortable in the car in the midday sun driving around. So no leaks on that. I'm really thankful, but just when you're watching the video and getting an idea what to do, be mindful that there's a retaining clip on the shaft, and that retaining clip has a seal below it, and it has nothing to do with this process. So whatever you do, don't take that clip off, because it'll blow the seal out and it may be a problem. Hey YouTubers, so today I'm bringing you another video on my 2012 Ford Focus. Right now I'm coming up on 300,000. I'm at 294,900 and something, so 295 thereabouts. But my AC went out, which is why I'm looking hot and sweaty today. What happened was, a week ago I turned the AC on and it didn't work, and so I went in the engine bay and checked the fuses, and the fuse for the AC compressor had blown, and so I turned the AC on, put another fuse in there, and it blew the other fuse immediately. Okay, and once that happened, I realized there was a problem, because fuses are your car's defense from setting on fire on the highway. If a circuit becomes grounded, or the amperage load on that circuit becomes too high for some reason, then the fuse will blow. So typically, if a fuse blows, you don't just put another fuse in there. There's a reason why the fuse blows, and so you put the fuse in, and you also try to figure out what caused the first fuse to blow. Like typically, if you have something like a window motor, a window regulator that's blowing a fuse, then the motor itself might be worn to where it's putting an excessively high amperage load on the fuse and causing it to blow. With the AC compressor, it's a magnetic field coil that activates a clutch, so there's no actual torque being applied to that motor. It's not a motor, it's a field coil. It's no actual torque, it's just a winding of wire that gets an electric charge through it and creates a magnetic field. So if that shorts out, then typically that means that the wire winding may have shorted, the insulation in the wire may have eroded, or it may have become corroded from moisture, any number of reasons. But anyway, I'm gonna show you guys real quick what happened in the engine bay, and then I'll jack the car up and show you what happened down by the AC compressor. Okay, so in the engine bay, and I'll show you guys the whole engine bay. And your fuse box is right here. It's under a cover. It's under this cover right here. And your AC fuse is right here. That's this one that's lit up. And then your AC relay is right here. And so what happens is, when you turn the AC on, it sends a request to the ECM, and if the ECM checks your high pressure, low pressure, and makes sure everything is good to go, it'll energize this relay. And this relay sends power to this fuse. It's a 15 amp fuse. And that fuse sends an electrical charge to the field coil on the AC compressor. So if this fuse is blown, it's usually a problem with the wiring going to the compressor or the compressor itself. Here, I'll unplug this relay and you'll see how the power goes out on that fuse. Oh, it's nice and hot too. Okay, so yeah, see how the power on the fuse went out? And so when I plug it back in, see, and the fuse lights back up. But yeah, so that's what happens down in there, and that fuse is the one that keeps blowing. Now, this is the AC compressor. This is not the one that was actually in the car. This is a spare that I have, and this is where the energy would go into the AC compressor. That this gets a positive and negative charge in here, and it energizes a field coil that's in the back of this pulley, and that in turn clamps down this front part, and it sandwiches the whole thing together and makes it spin with the engine, and that's what makes your AC compressor kick on. So that is the part that's bad in my AC compressor, is this piece. That's what's shorting out, is this this unit with the field coil. The AC compressor itself works fine, but the field coil is bad. Okay, so this is my old compressor taken apart. This is one that I had, and the internals of it failed. So what was happening is it was spinning, but it wasn't actually pumping and compressing the refrigerant. But I'll show you what happens inside of here. So this pulley sits on here, and then this is the clutch. This is always referred to as the clutch, and it has splines there, and it sits on a spline shaft, and that's what actually spins. So this spins freely on a bearing, but then when you energize it, then it clamps down on this and makes this spin also, and this spins the compressor, and that's what makes your compressor work. Okay, now let me see, there's a snap ring. There's a small snap ring that goes down inside of here, and there's a bigger one on the outside that goes here, and I removed those, and then I used this puller to remove this pulley, which it really didn't need that. I could have probably just put 2 screwdrivers on the back side and just pried it off, but I wanted to be really careful and not damage anything. And so once I did that and I got this removed, here I'll show you. You see this black plastic piece? This plug has wires that go into it, and it's in this black plastic piece, and it just goes round and round and round, and that's the field coil. And when you apply electricity to it, it creates a magnetic force, and that's what this metal piece gets clamped to. This gets clamped onto it and pulls it onto this pulley when you apply electricity to it. So this is the piece that's bad. The wires in here probably shorted out for whatever reason on my other compressor. This one I know is good. It's just the compressor itself was bad because it wasn't pumping refrigerant through the engine even though it was spinning. So I'm going to remove this, which there's just, hold on, I'll get this out of the way and show you guys. So see, there's another snap ring down inside there, and so I'm going to remove that snap ring and then take this off. And at first I was going to try to remove all of this stuff on the other compressor while it's on the car, so I wouldn't have to drain down the refrigerant, but I'm probably going to end up having to take it off. So we'll see what happens once I get the car jacked up. So this piece, I took out that last snap ring and this just came off, and this is the piece that's bad that's on my car, and so I got to take all that extra stuff off to get this off. This is the field coil, and you can get this at the Rock Auto. You get this, and you get the pulley and the hub, the whole assembly for about $120. I don't know, I looked on eBay. I haven't found anybody that's selling just this, not for the 2012 Focus. They sell it for the 2011 and earlier, and it runs less than $30. I'm guessing the one for this, just because of how new it is, would probably be a little bit more, but you know, we're still talking less than $100. So if your AC compressor is working just fine and all you wanted to do was replace this part because it was blowing fuses, that would definitely be a cheaper option to put a new part on there and get it up and running, instead of changing out the entire compressor, which is usually a lot more expensive if you go with the new parts. Okay, so removing the pulley, I'm trying to take this off while it's on the car, and this pulley has an 8mm bolt that goes through the center of it. That's the first thing that has to come off. The problem is that when you try to remove the pulley like that, the whole thing wants to spin. And so what I've done is I take a pry bar and I put it between this shield and the pulley like so, and just apply some pressure. It doesn't have to be a lot, and it'll hold it in place, and I can actually use that as leverage to hold it in place while I spin this bolt out that's on there. It's not a counterclockwise bolt or anything like that, it's just a regular one. But it's got a lot of tread lock on it, so it'll seem like it doesn't want to come out at first. It'll seem like it's gonna snap, but then once you get it out a couple turns, then it just kind of spins out there, you know. It comes out pretty feely. And there you go. There's the bolt. Goes in the middle there. And now the next part is the outer part, the clutch. Like I said, it just kind of slides off of there. I just need to pry something back there and it'll come loose and it just comes off. Yeah. Actually, I may not even need to pry anything back there if I could get my fingernails in the back there. Hold on. Alright, we'll try a small flat screwdriver. There we go. And she's coming loose. And so I just turn it a little bit and pry it a little bit and turn it a little bit. And that's it. It's off. And there's this little piece in the back. So this goes on the back of this. And the reason for that is so that when this clutch is not engaged, it doesn't kind of touch here and rattle around and make a whole bunch of noise. So when it's time to put it back together, don't forget this little brush. I guess it's kind of a cloth material, terry cloth material, but it's important. Otherwise your compressor is going to make a whole bunch of noise. So remember to put that back in. And now it's snap ring time. I'm going to try to do this to where you guys can see. You just reach in there and that's one snap ring. And the other one is way down in there, and I don't even think that's necessary to get the pulley off. I'm going to try to get this pulley off without removing that snap ring that's way down inside there. But I am going to have to loosen up this compressor because the belt has to come off, and there's no adjustment on this belt. It just loops around the crank pulley and around the AC compressor. So to get it off, you actually have to remove the whole compressor. I mean, you can just loosen it up to where you have room, and that's how it comes off. It's stupid, but you know, that's what it is. I got the front hub off. I ended up having to take the compressor off, which I guess it was going to be necessary because this field coil was seized onto there really good. I mean, I had to do everything I could to get this to move just a little bit so I could get a screwdriver under there, and then I had to pry and hit it with a hammer to get it off. It wasn't popping off the way the other spring clip was on the other compressor. Now, while I was doing that, I thought that maybe this clip inside of here, maybe if I remove that, it would give the shaft a little bit of movement and I could get it out. That has nothing to do with it, but what that does do, there's a seal in the back of it, and so if you pop that spring clip out with the compressor full of refrigerant, it starts spraying everywhere. So don't do like your Uncle Trevor, leave that spring clip alone. It has nothing to do with this process. And if you take it out, it's probably going to leak. In fact, mine is probably going to leak when I put all this back together, and if it does, then I'm going to end up having to get a whole new compressor anyway, because I don't want to mess with putting another seal down in there and then have it leak again. I'm not messing with it like that. I'm going to put it together, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, I'm just going to go get another compressor. I'm not doing this anymore. But you know, as far as cheap fixes go, this was worth it to me, because I knew that that was the only piece wrong with the compressor, and also I had a whole spare one laying around, so the cost to me was zero. You know, it was just some labor on my part, and then for you, if you wanted to do it, it would probably be cheaper than replacing the whole compressor. But yeah, just learn from my mistake. Don't take that spring clip out on the inside down in there. And you're probably going to end up having to take the compressor out. If you try to remove the clip, that snap ring that's holding this in place down in there, and it gives you any trouble, just go ahead and snatch the whole compressor out. It's way easier to work on the ground. You know, if everything is going great and all the stars align, you can get it out while it's on the car, but as soon as you start having problems, just go ahead and snatch the whole thing out. It'll make life easier, save you a lot of time and headache. Okay, so here's the finished product. I put it back together the way it came apart, and important to make sure that's spinning freely and not touching the clutch, because it'll rattle and make a whole bunch of noise once you get the car up and running. And so yeah, I'm gonna fill it up with oil, put it back in the car, charge up my AC, and hopefully it'll work the way I want it to. We'll see what happens. Alright, so this is the moment of truth. I'm back home. I replaced this fuse. This is a good fuse in here. And oh, I got some extra fuses and I got those laying there, so if I ever need a fuse, you know, I can use that. And so I got my little line hooked up here, and I'm gonna charge the AC system up, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully it doesn't just leak everywhere and just pour this refrigerant out, because I'm scared to death that that's what's gonna happen because of that seal. Everything is working exactly as it should be. I'm running a green. I put 2 cans. I put 2 of these 12-ounce cans of refrigerant in there. It calls for a little bit more than that, but you know what? With 2 cans, the efficiency is just fine. It's blowing nice and cold. I mean, like, really nice and cold with just 2 cans. And the fuse is not blowing, and everything is working exactly the way it's supposed to. I don't see any leaks down here on this seal. I don't see anything coming out of there or spraying or anything like that, but if it is leaking, then hopefully it'll be a slow leak and it'll last through maybe a couple of months. And if it does leak out, I'll just go get another compressor. So, mission was a success. Yeah, I got AC again. Yay. And that's big yay in Florida.